about issues with Zoom this past week? I mean, after the initial issues.
Yeah. No, I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, I'm not
We had
getting
we had 88 people on the meeting last night who seemed to sign in with no problem except for Gary Davis. He's the only one that I know of that had issues.
Gary's here. I think Gary, are you hooked into the audio yet?
No.
Oh, I can hear
We
you.
can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I
Yeah.
can now. Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, I'm using the house to listen and to speak on, and I use my desktop to see you people in person. Because the teacher I had, was really good, but I didn't comprehend.
I get it.
Yeah, so this may be it for today. I just rechecked my email, my work email. I don't see anything from anyone else saying they weren't going to come, but now it's, it's 1:15, so.
Yeah.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think everyone here either came to the public workshop for Middle Cheshire Road or has been involved with the plan at least recently. Is there anyone who didn't? I mean, I think you guys were all there, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we were.
And I think I've actually heard from all of you about the plan. Karen, I saw your email. Joyce, I know you had talked about it too. Was there anything that any of you had any questions on or wanted to say that hasn't been shared yet about the plan?
Sarah, when is the plan scheduled to be completed and actually in the hands of the town board to pass, to vote on?
I know Doug just stepped away, but there was a resolution on their agenda last night to set the public hearing. So if they pass that resolution, then the public hearing will be at the March 15th meeting.
Okay.
And then, of course, there's the option to adopt it. There would be a resolution at the March 15th agenda to adopt it if they so choose. So as long as they passed that one yesterday, then we're moving forward.
I think it's a really good start. It's a good study. I think it gives us something to envision, for the future. I like the elements of it. It's very community oriented as far as, pop-up green spaces and things like that. And I'm really happy with and I mentioned it before, the wetlands, part of that and the development of that with the city for some kind of, trail space. I think that's a real big plus actually for Middle Cheshire and all the walkers that we get in there. That would be a really nice space. And it connects to Westlake Road. So, that's a plus.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with Joyce. I thought that was like the premier issue and solution for that wetland and for all the people that just walk up and down Westlake Road. The only thing that I was I didn't know if there was going to be like a little parking area off Middle Cheshire Road, or we are just going to consider the parking area at the pump house.
Well,
Anyone?
Oksana, the circle, Westlake Road, Butler Road, Middle Cheshire Road, Whitefalls Road is exactly 4 miles. And I used to walk it every morning. Every morning at 5 o'clock, I'd be out there walking that circle. And the bulk of the people that you see walking on Middle Cheshire Road are doing that trek. So I think you're going to see, and typically they come from either my section of Middle Cheshire Road, or they come from their homes. So
Yeah.
I don't think
Mhm.
you're going to see as much of a need for parking for that area as you would for, one of the other parks. I think there'll be a need for some parking, but I don't think it'll be a really big need. So,
And I wonder how a parking could only be given the topography on the Middle Cheshire side of that, how it would interfere with the, pedestrian path that's on that side.
yes,
So I don't think parking would be, not there anyway, would be appropriate. And that's why I think the Westlake, parking lot down there by the water
Yeah.
treatment plant is much more appropriate. And it
Right.
provides, if people want to drive there, then
Right.
they just drive there, and then they just,
At most, you see maybe 1 or 2 cars there, or somebody getting water out of the spigot there.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not well used. The thing I really liked about the plan were, what did they call those little corner units where they had a bench and a little
yeah,
bit, I liked the community feel of that.
yeah.
I thought it would promote more pedestrian traffic on
Mhm.
Middle Cheshire Road, and I think that would be nice. And especially on the 5 and 20 corners.
Yes.
I
that-
thought, wow, just having that there should slow traffic down a little bit, and people
Absolutely.
then when they cross that road won't get killed because people are going through the red light.
Right.
But
And I think the little green space that they had for the switchback trail
yes,
there
Yes.
would be a really nice amendment to that whole area right there. It would
I
make
agree.
it much more, I think people would be slowing down
yeah.
when they see those
Yeah.
kinds of things happening there.
So those were the two places I saw that I think it'd be great to start.
Yeah.
But I don't know. My question is, how do you start on something like that? I mean, that's pretty much a major undertaking, and some of it requires infrastructure changes, from what I understood. Sarah?
Yeah, I think some of them might, and
Especially the Wells Curtis Road area and the southern area of Middle Cheshire Road.
yeah, and I mean, it's a big plan geographically too. So,
Yes.
I mean, one of the things we have to remember is it's conceptual too. So
Yeah.
Yes.
the
Yeah.
first steps are, actually digging in to the engineering and design of each of the individual pieces of it, and I think, even backing up even further, if this plan's adopted, the first steps are to, try and see like scheduling for outside funding and that kind of thing. And that can help, for a timeline to see, what steps you might take first.
From the engineering plan, I think we would get the recommendations, that the town would move on. It's going to be a policy, document, the study. And so we'd be looking for, especially the CIC, because we'd be looking for those recommendations, because if it is adopted, then, we kind of get involved in it with its recommendations and strategies and goals. So.
Yeah, and then, the other thing to remember too, especially like with the whole idea of the trail through the wetland, is that was like very, very conceptual. So,
Mhm.
I think talking about parking is even jumping the gun on that one.
Yeah.
There'd be a lot of conversations to have. I do like that though, the wetland
Yeah,
idea.
I
That
do
would be,
too.
it would be a really neat feature to
Yes,
be
it
able to
would.
have boardwalks and stuff through there.
Yeah.
But
And something we don't have in a park open space is that kind of feature in a wetlands. So it would be unique, and I think it would be great.
But
I agree.
Gary,
So-
did you have
so-
anything to add? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Karen.
Sarah, so when it comes to implementation, will they put together a step 1, step 2, step 3, et cetera, or will it be up to the town to determine what would be what would be the start of it? And would that be based on maybe available grant money? Or how do they determine? I'm new at this. How do they determine what to do first?
I think my understanding is that that would be up to us, based on our own internal scheduling, you know, and maybe potential existing scheduling for road work. And then, yeah, you hit it there with the funding, you know, availability of grants and the timeline for grants, and not, you know, they're not all offered every year.
Right.
And so I would guess that that would be one of the first things we'd look at, is see, and they do have some recommendations for what kind of grant programming we can look at. And they have some ideas for where we might be successful. So, I mean, I think that would be one of the first steps too, is see what the timeline is for some of those grant programs, and see which ones come up first and which ones we think, you know, are the most likely. But, you know, again, we would have to look at funding for engineering before anything else, because,
Yeah.
you know, all of these are just ideas right now. None of them have been designed. So, but yeah, I don't think in their plan they gave us a schedule, because they understood that we may need to, you know, do it this here and that there, you know, piece by piece. So, and it would likely be highly dependent on when funding is available and from who.
So the whole area by the hospital, would the city take on those projects, or it would have to be the town and the city?
Well, I mean, I would imagine that anything that happens in the city is up to them. I mean, with,
Yeah.
you know, I'm perhaps if it's like an intersection that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, where, you know, that first one there, where part of it's us. I mean, we would potentially
Yeah.
work together, but we can't make any decisions for what they do. I would
Okay.
imagine their process would be similar, you know, if they want to follow through with any of the recommendations, they would probably consider it the same way we would, pursue funding and
Mm-hmm.
engineering and all that.
Yeah.
Doug,
It
did the town board pass the resolution that sets the public hearing for Middle Cheshire Road for March 15th?
Yes.
Okay. All right, well, so that's the first step.
So that'll be on what, March 15th?
March 15th.
Yeah, okay.
And that's the public hearing. And usually what we do is propose a resolution the same evening for adoption that they can decide on after the public hearing.
Doug, will that public hearing come before the public hearings on the lakefront property?
Well, the town board closed the public hearing last night on the Tishner Point parcel.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got bored and I left.
Yeah.
What
So
about, what about the RSM parcel?
that public hearing is still open.
Still open, okay.
And so to answer your question, Karen, the continued public hearings always come first.
Okay, thank you.
Gary, did you have anything else to chime in on with Middle Cheshire Road, or have you had your say?
Well, I'm just
Oh.
listening to what everybody else has to offer and see what their thought process are or is. The main thing, as far as I'm concerned, in the, you know, that Middle Cheshire Road is something that's been ongoing for a lot of years, and I don't know as really it was fully addressed, is the bypass. We talked about, you know, there was supposed to be turning lanes on both the north and the south side of the bypass when they built the villas, and it didn't happen on the south
Right.
side or on the north side of the bypass. there certainly needs to be, you know, a turning lane there like there is for the south side of the bypass, in my
Yeah.
opinion, especially if you go there at a certain time and you want to come to, you go to town hall or whatever, you have an awful long wait there to, many times to get across or to make the turn. So that's basically, you know, the one thing that pops into my mind that I think is critical.
And that will take some negotiation and some, you know, conversations with the DOT. You know, I think I believe they didn't approve or whatever those turning lanes, or didn't move on them anyway from the recommendation. So that seems to me to be another, I don't want to say hurdle, but it's another area that has to be explored. That could take a while.
Well, we do have a turning lane, Joyce, on the south side.
Yep, I know that, but you know, the rest of it is, yeah. I
Well,
think it's
that
their
whole,
jurisdiction, as far as, that's what I'm trying to say. It's the state's jurisdiction, isn't it?
Yes. Understandable.
and that whole intersection though is going to be changed because they're going to be putting a crosswalk in that intersection. So it stands to
But the whole-
reason that they might take a look at the entire intersection to try to
Yeah.
make it safer. Yes.
Exactly.
Hopefully the DOT is smart enough to realize that. Sometimes, like when they have their engineers talking at one of our meetings, I'm not so sure that they're smart enough, but we will help them.
I'm sure they have many impediments, okay, and limitations as far as funding and their own funding for, you know, the projects that they take on. So yeah, it's probably a very long conversation with them.
The thing is,
Um,
they made that that bypass, and they're the ones that made the. I mean, I lived here when they were making that bypass. You did too, and they made mistakes from the very beginning. Assumptions that did not come to pass, and it was poorly designed. It's still poorly designed, and I worry that where that crosswalk is, that you're going to find some bodies laying there someday, but we'll see.
I just wanted
It's-
to chime in and remind you guys that during the steering committee meetings and the public meetings, and then the resulting recommendations, there's no talk of adding any kind of turn lanes that aren't already there. So this is the recommendations, it's the crosswalk. So, I mean, during all those meetings, it wasn't recommended. So,
And
you know,
that's-
DOT's probably not going to look at putting in a turn lane based on
Well,
this plan.
Well, but look at the lower left-hand corner, the where the two cars are there, they have left-hand turns there. So that
But
indicates,
that's what's existing.
I know, but it does, yeah, the thing that's going to need to be changed is lights. The lights are going to have a left-hand turn light. It's not the road is fine. It's just they're going to have stoplights. I mean, if you remember the whole progression of this, there wasn't even a stoplight there originally. You know, you were just taking a chance. Then they put a flashing light there, and then they finally put a red, yellow, and green light there. They're now going to have to put a red, yellow, green, and turn signal there.
And an arrow.
Or
Yeah.
It's just
not going to work.
I mean, I'm just saying it's not included in their recommendations. So that would be something different or that might come later. And I remember we all, you know, this was talked about during the steering committee meetings, and I don't remember anyone putting their foot down and saying they had issues with the recommendations at that time.
Well, Sarah, what I'm referring to is not a left-hand lane turn on coming north on Middle Cheshire at the bypass. I'm talking about a left-hand turn lane on the north side of that so that you could go downtown. Because right now they're turning, there's people behind going straight and things like that. That's the lane that I brought up to the consultant a couple different times that was needed because the town was neglect on having that lane put in there under the when the villas was, being built, and that was one of the so-called givebacks, if you will, like the Switchback Trail from the villas made concessions on. And I'm very familiar with the bypass because the town had nothing to do with it. We moved here in the fall of '77, and that was one of my concerns before it went in. And I checked with different town officials. They knew nothing about it. The city seemed to be on top of it. That's why you got an overpass over Westlake Road. And by the time that I had moved here, the plans had already been drafted up, so nothing else could take place. And Marge Van Isgem was the supervisor. Her and I, we made contact with the state in Albany and every place else, but it was too late to get anything that we really needed there at that time.
Well, it sounds like the conversation, we have questions and there's nothing to stop us from having that conversation with DOT because as time moves on, traffic patterns change, so nothing can be set in stone for too long. I mean, for a number of years maybe, but maybe it's time just to look at that intersection again and see if it's working right and see how safe it is if we're going to have a crosswalk there.
I think they did the studies. I saw emails go back and forth, with the traffic counts and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's part of what they looked at. I mean, I can ask for more information if you want it.
Or we could just probably the CIC is going to review this when it goes to the town board anyway. They'll refer it back to us for, our comments. We could make those comments there.
You can make them now. I mean, that's kind of why I wanted to talk about it today.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we've made a lot of comments then that that's what, you want to do with them, then we can
When we have that public hearing that night, I anticipate the town board is going to need to take action to acknowledge this document that night. It will not be referred back anywhere.
Oh.
Because of the grant deadline, right?
Oh, okay.
Well, we have to be done with our contract, GTC's contract with Bergman, because, that's how this grant worked, has to be over by March 31st. So, that's why we've been trying to talk about this so much. We're trying to get all the information in, and anyway.
So
We will not be doing further work on this after probably the 15th. Bergman will not be. I mean, the contract is going to be over by the 31st. So,
So can you go back to them with our comments today? Because it seems like that 5 and 20 intersection is a stickler. And it requires both the city and the town to be on notice about it because it encompasses.
Well, I just want to point out that these recommendations have been available for weeks. I mean, months even, and the steering committee was mute. Everybody said they were okay with it. Why didn't people say anything then? Why now when it's almost over? And I don't think we have time to do any major revisions. I mean, it's not up to me whether this gets passed or not, but it seems a bit late in the game to be going back and changing everybody's minds. I mean, these meetings happened and nobody said anything until now.
I don't think it's that we're wanting to change this plan. I think that our comments are more when we get into the design phase of it. When we get into the engineering phase, then these may be opportunities or recommendations to give to that consultant about, we have questions. We're not talking about changing anything at 5 and 20 as far as, except enhancing, what I'm saying, enhancing how the safety aspects of that intersection. I don't think
So do you guys are you asking me to tell Bergman to change something on this plan?
No,
That's what I
I'd like
need to know.
No,
I'd
no.
have you ask them why they didn't consider that, because I talked to Kim on the phone, and I also talked to her when we had the gathering down at the church about that. That was one of the items that I brought to her attention both times, about the unsafe situation.
Uh-oh, Gary, we lost you. He's not muted.
I can speak to that. I actually use that intersection pretty much daily, and going into the city, going straight past to the hospital, basically, and coming back out of it. I don't believe it's as much of an issue as maybe people think, the turning left onto 5 and 20. And I think if people come down that road, I think the majority of people go down Paris Street to get into the city of Canandaigua, not come the 5 and 20 way. But I understand what Gary is saying, because cars go on the shoulder and go around a car turning left. So maybe a wider corner would help. So although you don't want cars going on the shoulder, I understand that, but I'm not sure they're going to see enough of a problem. I mean, we know the DOT, when they do a study, I don't think they will see as much of a problem as we are seeing ourselves.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
That's possible.
It probably wouldn't be enough to warrant.
Exactly.
Mhm.
The thing that I would like to know is what they have in store for the lights, for safety of pedestrians and left-hand turns off of the bypass.
So as far as this plan goes, the only lighting change they're recommending is for the crosswalk, not the actual vehicle turn lights.
And frankly, I don't see that as much of a problem either. You know, we all use this. We're all used to waiting there to turn left onto Middle Cheshire Road, or to, even if you're coming from the town hall, to turn left onto Middle Cheshire Road to go toward the hospital. I don't think there is enough of a problem with that for the DOT to make any changes. But maybe they'll see it differently. I am concerned about the crosswalk. And safety.
Are you thinking that their recommendations don't go far enough for the crosswalk and the crossing light signals?
Yeah, because, you know, I mean, I can remember back in 1973 when the town people started talking about this, and I worked with some people who were very verbal about it. And there was always talk about people crossing that road. No, that's how many years is that? Oh my God, 50 years, right? and nobody has been walking across Middle Cheshire Road at that intersection. All of a sudden, 50 years later, you're making it a pedestrian way. There's going to be a problem. And I hope that the state of New York recognizes that. Now, for example, the crosswalk down at the Four Corners, 332, going from in front of the bank all the way across the road, that's a 90-second crosswalk. And that's what I'm hoping they look at and say, you know, initially we're going to need a 90-second crosswalk. We're going to need enough time for someone, because we're close to the hospital, maybe a handicapped person. You know, we don't know there's homes right nearby there with many senior citizens living there. We don't know who is going to be using that crosswalk. So I'm hoping that they will take that into consideration, the people who are going to use it, and the fact that there has never been a crosswalk there, and people have never walked across that road there unless they were in an accident.
Yeah, and I would think that, I mean, if this were adopted and we chose to pursue this, that would be up to DOT, right? As
Right.
far as, I
It'd
mean, 'cause
have
it's
to
their
be.
road, so I
Yeah.
would assume that there'd be a lot of engineering and,
I
or
hope
not,
so.
I don't know engineering, but looking into what length of time they think people need for crossing there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they could even come back and say, no,
Yeah.
so. I don't know, but. All right. Gary, I don't know if you can hear us, but you were saying something before and your microphone cut out. And I didn't hear what you said.
I don't think he's back.
Well, I see him, but yeah, I don't hear
Yes.
him.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, but he was on I thought that he was on his phone.
But it's still there.
It's still there, yeah.
Hmm.
Well, it's 9:45. I have a hard stop at 10. We do have a little bit more time. But I know we've only really talked about this intersection, but so I can provide comments back to Bergman if there's anything that, you know, you guys see that really needs to be changed. But I just, after asking you guys for clarification, it sounds like you're not recommending changes to the plan, but just things we need to keep in mind going forward. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
true.
Yes.
I'm not sure if you asked me any questions, you know, in the last 3 or 4 minutes because I got disconnected. So I just got back on. So,
Okay, yeah, I was confused, Gary. You're actually now on here twice. You didn't disappear from the screen, but I couldn't hear you.
yeah, my house phone, it just went kaput, so I just plugged back in.
Oh my gosh.
Gary, what I was saying with everyone else is I do need to quit right at 10 a.m., but I was just clarifying with everybody. It sounds like no one's saying that they think Bergman should make any changes to the plan, but that, you know, these are just conversations and things that we need to keep in mind going forward if it's adopted and they work on, you know, if we start working on this intersection with the state. Would you agree with that?
Sure.
Okay.
Sarah, the only other place I think they should be really cautious about, and I don't recommend any changes. I wouldn't know how to recommend any changes for the Wells Curtis Westlake Road intersection.
Well, you know, there is a whole plan that the county did with Westlake Road, and there was a lot of detail on the Wells Curtis, you know, intersection right there. I don't think that what I saw with the Westlake Road study, that actually was fully implemented at Wells Curtis, because that's going to be the county's responsibility to make the changes there because we don't own it. So there'll be another conversation, I suppose, with them. So I was just wondering at the time when I saw the changes, the striping that they did, it didn't seem to me like it was exactly what I saw in the study. So, you know, that there's another conversation that we have to have regarding that intersection.
Yes, yes. You know, I don't know what the county did. I didn't go to that meeting several years ago.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. There needs to be some coordination between the county and the town on that intersection.
Yeah.
But that whole part of the road that goes steeply downhill and then continues downhill if you turn south on Westlake Road, believe me, it can be a hazard. And I mean, I'm down there a lot because that's where Russ lives. He lives second house from that intersection. And I know how cars are. I know that I very seldom see a car adhering to the speed limit, pretty much 50 miles an hour going up that road or down that hill. And there's going to have to be someone's going to have to take a look at that, and you know, they're talking about putting a walkway on part of that, and you know, they're just going to have to be really careful for safety, particularly for bicyclists who do use that road a lot. And there's also that area at the bottom where there's a very wide shoulder and people park there. Those people live across
Mhm.
the Westlake Road on the lakeside, some of them. But it turns out that that hill there is a favorite place of rock hounds and people looking for not only rocks, but all sorts of different, what I don't know what all they're looking for, frankly, but that's what they park there, and they're chipping off things off in that ditch, and people are used to doing this. So there's going to have to be some cognizance that that intersection is not just an intersection. So those are the two things, 5 and 20 and Wells Curtis Road.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know Jim sent some comments to Bergman about Wells Curtis, the intersection too, so. All right, Doug, did you have anything to add?
Nope.
Well, I'm disappointed more people didn't come. I didn't hear from anyone. I don't know if they just gave up on our Zooms.
Yeah. It's, you know, the process is just a little, it's different, and it takes a little time to move through it, that I've learned this morning anyway. So maybe they had the same situation that I did and just got, you know, kind of, yeah. What?
Maybe.
Maybe, I don't know.
I know Tom Swartz is traveling this month and next month because he let me know that he wouldn't be able to attend the ordinance meetings.
Yeah, I think I remember him sending something too.
Let's hope he didn't go to Texas or Oklahoma or down south anywhere.
I just wish someone from the city had been here so that we could have had their Sal's input too on the intersection
Yeah.
with the city.
There has been a representative from the city involved from the beginning. I can't say they've been heavily involved, but we have had them. And I know John Goodwin went to the public meeting because I saw his
I did
name
too.
on the screen. The county's been involved too. I don't know how heavily involved. They haven't sent me any communication. I don't know whether they reached out directly to Bergman. But there's always been the option for involvement and conversation. So it was always extremely open.
And we also had the school superintendent because that's a section that a lot of school buses go through. So
Yeah.
we got their input.
Yeah, when we had our first couple of steering committee meetings, they were in person. And Jamie Farr was there. Robertson was at that time the city rep, and he came. So yeah, I mean, everybody was there. So I think if they had, any comments, they hopefully would have shared them with Bergman.
I doubt honestly that the school's had a whole lot of time to really dig into it. Jamie,
probably
I've
not
had a couple of
recently.
meetings. Yeah, I've had a couple of meetings with Jamie over the last 12 months, and he's just so incredibly busy right now with the COVID situation, and they're trying to figure out, all the teachers had to be vaccinated and everything else. So
Yeah.
I just don't think it was a priority for him, honestly. And I don't
Yeah.
mean that derogatory. I just,
Yeah.
didn't prioritize. So
Only have so
Right.
much time. But a lot of, if they do have, the one thing about this, it's a good plan, we're not suggesting any changes to the plan itself, but in the design phase, that's when we may get some more. We'll be having public hearings and things like that in that. So there's an opportunity for future input.
When they used to, and Doug, it was back in the old days, wasn't it, when we used to meet face to face?
Yeah,
Right.
the good old days.
I have to sign off, folks. I have to leave. Okay, I'll see you.
Yep, I think we're
Is there a
about,
meeting next week, Sarah?
yeah, we haven't talked about changing our weekly schedule for a while now. So I need to get in touch with Eric and see when he thinks we might have a revised draft of the comp plan. I
Yeah.
don't have one right now. I don't know if I'll have one by next Tuesday. Let's see, today, I don't even know where we fall on our typical calendar. If this would have been the 3rd.
Yes, it is the 3rd.
Yeah, third.
Okay, so this would have been our normally scheduled meeting. Next week would not, I don't think.
So you'll let us know, right?
Yeah, why don't I'll send a note before Friday or by Friday
Okay.
confirming.
Okay.
I gotta
Because-
leave.
I mean, maybe we could just skip next week until we have a draft, but yep, I'll make sure everybody knows.
Okay.
Okay, well, unless anyone has anything else, I think we're good for today.
Okay.
All right. Have a good day, everybody. We'll see
Yeah.
you soon.
Thank you.